If you follow the news closely, let's pay attention to the nation of Argentina. And given the fact today that this nation recently elected a brand new president, which is Javier Milei. Now, some believe this time, by electing Milei, the fate of the country can be changed. And given the fact that economically speaking, this nation is standing at the crossroads, politically speaking, this country is also in this instability. But most importantly, according to the media or even according to his campaign, that this nation needs a drastic change, and also the younger generations believe that these political games could no longer run the machine for the country. So that's why for Milei, this is opportunity for him to really start something new. But meanwhile, more experts believe that the next challenge for Milei, it's not just about his political ambition, it's more about governing Argentina in a more unpolarized way. Can he do the job? And meanwhile, why was he elected at the first place? Was he actually following all the promises that he made during the campaign? Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to invite our distinguished speaker, who is Maria Zuppello. Again, if you're familiar with Maria, she's one of the amazing investigative journalists. Of course, she covers extensively among the regions in Latin America and also all the international affairs. Well, Maria, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Maria, I want to get started. Again, as we mentioned before, this episode, it's centered on the country of Argentina. Now, so far, again, this country just elected this brand new president, and people believe that there were some promises that he made to the voters. For example, political change, economic shift, or brand new economic agenda. But most importantly, his presence actually represented that something for the country that might have never seen before. So can you help us with better understanding? That's the first question. What is happening to the country today? And why do you think that Javier Milei is elected as the next president for the country?
First of all, we have to remind that we are talking about Latin America. So we can't judge Argentina new president by the same standards that apply, for example, in Switzerland. What I want to say is that populism is one of the principal parts of a political language in Latin America. So we have to differentiate populism from real politics. And I think that Milei, the first step that Milei is taking are towards real politics. The problem of Argentina is that the economic situation it's really bad. Inflation has reached 143% and is projected to rise to 200% by the end of the year. So we are talking about data that are really creating problems to the population. So we have price distortions, inflation, and international loans. $44 billion loaned by the International Monetary Fund and 47 billion yuan swap from China. This is real. So facing this kind of scenario, Milei suggested to apparently crazy and radical measures. The adoption of the US dollar as the official currency, and most of it, the elimination of the central bank. There are people, very important people, like, for example, Steve Anke, that work at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, that say that Argentina must dollarize to solve its problem, because historically the countries that have done so have achieved lower inflation rates, smaller fiscal deficit, lower levels of debt. What will be important is to follow the possible dollarization to avoid the issues, for example, that we have in Ecuador. In Ecuador, the dollarization combined with porosity of a financial system allowed the criminal groups to use Ecuador as a perfect hub for money laundering operations. Say that, I think that it's important to remind the last meetings that Milei had with the international community. You say Milei is similar to Trump. Yes and no. Yes, Donald Trump was one of the first to congratulate Milei and said the same sentence that he always said, Argentina, you will make Argentina great again. But we know that Trump won't participate to the Milei inauguration. So that's a fact. Russia, too, tried to say its word. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, congratulated Milei and said that Moscow has a desire to develop relations with Argentina. Also, China say that, Xi Jinping congratulates with Milei, even if Milei called the trade relations with Beijing vexatious. So what I'm saying is that it's realpolitik. For sure, lacking a majority in Argentinian parliament, Milei needs a more presentable alliance on the international front, which is why his first trip abroad was in the United States, to the United States. And it's interesting what the International Monetary Fund said. They said, Kristalina Georgieva, which is the Director General, said that they want, the International Monetary Fund want to support Argentina, and maybe the country will receive financing through the Resilience and Sustainability Trust. So there are specific projects for the economic future of Argentina. Also, the future government's Minister of Economy, Luis Toto Caputo, recently held a meeting in Washington to discuss the Argentina economy, and he met with Michael Kaplan, the Treasury Assistant Secretary for the Western Hemisphere. And the Treasury viewpoint is very important because, as you know, the United States is the primary shareholder of the International Monetary Fund. So Caputo proposed to the International Monetary Fund, the Treasury, a very drastic adjustment that the organization requested in the first instance. So it means that the economic path that Argentina wants to follow is aligned with the United States vision of the world, which is important because the United States in Latin America, we told many times, lost a lot of allies more attracted by the multipolar world, see Brazil, see Bolivia, and so on. It's very important, and the reply of the United States was positive because John Kirby, with the White House spokesman, said that the United States are interested in understanding Milei's ideas and policy and keeping communication channels open. For sure, if you look at his campaign, it was a populist campaign, full of polarized themes like abortion, like the relationship with China, the relationship with Israel. But as I said, we are in Latin America, and then realpolitik is the only way, and most of it, we have the problem of the economic problem, the economic issue, which is huge. So I think that the fact that Milei is I don't have a word, is prioritizing the relationship with the United States and with Israel means that his foreign policy will be NATO aligned. Another important element is that Milei will help the NATO alliance to mitigate the danger, the threat of the BRICS alliance, because as you know, Argentina was scheduled to enter the BRICS starting on December 1st.
That's right.
And it's important that for sure Milei said that Argentina won't participate to the BRICS group. It means that we'll have only the five countries, like for example Brazil. And another important thing is the Mercosur issue. As you know, Brazilian President Lula is very concerned about it after the defeat of Sergio Massa, who was the candidate for the Peronist party. And now this sensitive agreement with the European Union is being negotiated. As you know, is a very sensitive because the European Union asked Mercosur country to review some environmental criteria. For sure, the role of Argentina will be crucial. Let's remind that a few days ago, there was a meeting in Brazil between Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira and Diana Mondino, who is the future Minister of Foreign Affairs of Argentina. And in that meeting, Argentina announced that they would not join the BRICS group. But about Mercosur, there is a mystery. Nobody knows what's going to happen. In my personal opinion, I think that beside Argentina, the issue of a Mercosur agreement with European Union is sensitive because actually Lula doesn't want to allow European companies to participate to the economic life in Brazil. So that's the 2 points. So Argentina won't be crucial for the solution of this agreement. But for sure, they will have, the country will play a role in the future for other economic choices. So I think that the country is facing a big change. Don't forget that the balance of Peronism was really bad in Argentina, not only in terms of economic situation, but also in terms of political choices. The Peronism opened the door to China, opened the door to Iran. Don't forget the role of Christina Kirchner in the AMIA case. AMIA was the Jewish community that has been attacked in 1994 by Hezbollah people supported by the Iranian regime. So we have not to forget the past, because the past help us to understand why Argentinians decided to change their page. Don't forget that Milei was the was the first president from the right side to get the maximum of votes. I think that there were 50 million votes. So it was huge. It means that Argentinians were really tired of the situation. 50%, around 50% of the population is poor. They need financial helps from the state. And when you have a state that is limited to provide financial helps, it means that you don't have a future. You don't have a vision for the future, which is the problem of a leftist government in Latin America. As I always say, you have to forget all the criteria that you use to analyze all the democracies outside Latin America, because Latin America has a different story, different social components. We have a huge economic gaps between rich and poor, and we have a lot of people that don't have access to education, which means that they are they can be easily manipulated.
Maria,
that's why propaganda. Don't forget that when we have elections in Latin America, it's not only a problem of a country, but you have Russia, you have China, all working together to put propaganda in favor of their candidates.
Maria, I want to talk about his some of the proposals towards domestic policies. I mean, again, during his campaign, that again you mentioned regarding the topic on abortion, and also he believed that climate change is a socialist hoax, and also he mentioned that legalizing the sale of human organs and downgrading diplomatic ties to countries, as you mentioned, such as Brazil and China. Again, Maria, putting everything together, some call of his ideas are more radical. So how fair do you think it is that when we look at Milei's ideas, which more likely to implement to the nation of Argentina, are they really radical ideas, or you think Argentina today truly deserves that someone like Milei to revolutionize the country for a much greater future? What are your thoughts?
Think about the campaign. There was another candidate, which is Patricia Bullrich, which is a very she's conservative, but she's very balanced politician, and Argentinians prefer to vote for Milei. Why? Because I think that when you have difficulties to survive every day, economically speaking, you are weak, you are vulnerable. And this is the strength of propaganda. Propaganda is strong with vulnerable people. If you are rich and satisfied with your life, you're going to laugh at propaganda. But when you are living in the survival mode, you are vulnerable. So don't forget this. And don't forget that this is Latin America. So the approach of the Latin American citizen to the politics is increasingly becoming emotional. So populism is strong here because when you don't understand why rationally the previous government led you to this situation, you change your party and you accept everything. So saying that, I think that in this moment, I mean, for the first year, all this stupid idea, I don't call this idea radical. I think that they're stupid because there is you can be conservative, you can be right, but you must be intelligent.
Sure.
In my opinion, it was just put some gasoline to revamp your position in the campaign. Saying that, I think that the first year will be very rough, very hard for Milei, because he doesn't have a majority on the parliament, and because the economic measure will be very, very strong, and Argentinian people will suffer about it. Don't forget that many people are shocked by the dollarization, but actually the dollar was already inside the Argentina economy. People, for example, made real estate deals only in dollars. People are saving dollars at home. It's impossible to find dollars in Argentina now. So it means that historically Argentina always lived up and down. So people try to save money in dollars. So dollars is already in Argentinian mindset of daily life. We have to see what's going to happen, because the risk that analysts see is that the Peronists were in a certain way happy to lose, because everybody knows that the situation is of a worst level. So what could be expected is that Peronism will be revamped with huge protests. And when Peronists organize protests through the trade unions, they're really violent. It's Argentina, it's not Brazil. They have a history of violence in the street. So the risk is that the economic situation will polarize the country, not the idea of abortion or of human organs, trade, the economy, because for sure next month will be very hard, and people will live on their pockets. The problem. So Peronism could take advantage of it and start infernalize the political life of Milei government. Let's see that the people that he chose until now, its cabinet is a good cabinet, and is a cabinet open to different parties, not the Peronists, but for example, Macri, the former president Macri, helped a lot and gave a huge contribution to the election of Milei. And second, I think that if this government will survive the first year, it could help all the other countries, Brazil, Bolivia, Venezuela, to understand that if you are wrong in your economic politics, you pay in the election. So I think that Milei could help the region to understand that economy actually here is the main things, beside the ideology, beside the rhetoric, because if you have poor here, the people are really poor. It can be really vulnerable to any kind of propaganda, foreign propaganda. Don't forget that China is using Argentina as a main observatory in Latin America. They built an observatory. People suspect that it actually is a military base. So when we talk about Argentina, as I said, it's not only Argentina, is China, is Iran, is BRICS. So I think that if a relationship between United States and Milei will grow up, one teaching the other, Argentina could be the Trojan horse in Latin America. I mean, it's provocative what I'm saying, but in this moment, for example, in Brazil, my prediction is that next year there will be a very significant economic crisis. Okay, because the choices that Lula is doing are going to this direction. The presence of state in the economy, the new monetary theory is totally a failure. It was a failure in Colombia, and now we are starting seeing this failure here. So Milei, if really he will follow the path of the economy without any any radical statement or radical decisions, I think that Milei can help, will help the region. But this is a challenge not only for Argentina, but also for the United States.
That's right, Maria. I want to wrap up our conversation by reading you a simple statement and also want to get your final thoughts. Some believe that Milei may not even be able to finish his term, particularly since, as he readily recognizes, his policy proposals would at least initially increase poverty level, then further. So again, at the end of the day, Maria, I still want to land our final question on his economic agenda. I mean, again, it's one thing that you made promises during the campaign trails. It's another a sense of matter that you actually put actions behind your words when you look at the current economic turmoil in the country. So let me simplify the question. Would you say that Milei, again, as you mentioned before, will have much harder time to governing the country from this economic agenda? And also, how do you think that he's going to make compromises or even what we say negotiations with the lawmakers or with the politicians at this moment? Your final thoughts.
Yes, for sure. The economy will be the most important challenge for Milei. That's why the articulation with the United States institutions like the Monetary Fund could be really helpful to help Argentina making the best choices, having in mind that the situation is really bad. Because we have in Argentina 150% of inflation. So I think that even the most brilliant president will face problems. And I suggest the international community to help Milei government when the Peronist groups will be in the streets. And they will be in the streets, for sure, because they will take advantage of the yearly sacrifices that the government will ask Argentinian population. So I think that if Milei, through the help of international community, will be instructed in a very good economic path, I think that in 5 years maybe we'll talk about Argentina in a different way.
I believe so. Again, Maria, in reality, Milei still enjoys the honeymoon period after this major election. But meanwhile, one thing that we have to understand is the current economic turmoil won't be solved within the first month, or hopefully can be done within the first year. As you mentioned before, maybe 5 years down the road, we can come back and revisit the conversation about Argentina. But meanwhile, we hope that Milei and also the selected cabinet members can really hit the ground and get to work, because by demonstrating good example in the country of Argentina, it also sends a strong message not only to China, to US, and also to other neighboring countries within the Latin American region.